What's going on, guys? It's Mike. Welcome back. I thought I would take a minute, just do a little update. I don't have any big news or anything like that, but it's been a while since I've made a video. You get busy with work, you get traveling. I love making these videos, but then at the same time, I find myself when I kind of lose my momentum, struggling like, well, what should I talk about? And I need a topic, and you kind of get in your head, at least I do, and then you end up doing nothing. So rather than sit and do nothing until some giant inspiration hits, I thought I'd just take a minute, do an update. Not going to be a long one. Some great stuff going on. The consulting practice, busy, which is nice for me. However, I was able to launch a product, if you will. I'm going to be doing a newsletter, print newsletter, going out once a month for entrepreneurship and business, strategy, insight, all that kind of stuff. It's really geared for people that are entrepreneurs. If you're getting a business started, you want to start a business, you've got a business going, it's maybe smaller and you're trying to figure out, how do I grow? How do I scale? I'm just sharing my decades of experience, both running my own businesses and working as a consultant in my client businesses, solving problems and so on, to help. I'll talk more about that at some other point. This isn't a pitch for that, but I'm kind of proud that I got that thing launched. It was a rough launch. I had to take the approach of, don't wait for perfect. If you wait for perfect, you're never going to launch. So the website's ugly. The shopping cart is ugly. I've got to work on sales page and email sequences and all that kind of stuff. However, we got it launched. The name of the newsletter is The New Privateer. There's some great story. I say great stories. I'm kind of excited about the name. I think it's a great brand. I do branding often for clients, so I tend to know, I think, when I've got a good one, and I'm really happy with The New Privateer. I'll talk more about that in the future. Like I said, just more of an update. So there have been many months leading up to the launch of this thing, some soul searching. When you're going to put out a 16 to 20 page document of your best thinking once a month, you got to come to terms with, like, what is that going to entail? Just the writing alone. I mean, you're looking at 6,000 to 10,000 words of writing a month. You got to edit it, lay it out, et cetera, et cetera. So it took me a little time to get to that. I'm like, should I really do this? A lot of time talking to my wife, like, am I crazy? However, very excited to get to a place where I was able to announce it. Sent an email out yesterday. We're taking pre-orders. Number of people signed up for pre-orders. Thank you very much. Very exciting to see that. And of course, I'll be promoting this over the next number of weeks and months, because this is a really wonderful project that I'm working on. Wonderful for me and wonderful for the people that I hope to serve. However, if you're not in business, you're not interested in that, I get it. Not a big deal. So again, I'll talk more about it. I think I'm going to, at some point, talk a little bit about the brand, the name, The New Privateer, and what's the concept behind that. I love brands that capture a concept, that encapsulate in some kind of magical, unexpected way an idea. And I think I've got something with that one. Anyway, so that's one thing. So excited about that. Mentioned to you that my consulting work is going really well. Also, in the reading list, I've been kind of back on the horse with reading. I don't know about y'all, but I love reading. Loved reading as a kid. Just loved to read. But with our modern world, between social media and all the other distractions and just life, et cetera, sometimes you get out of the habit. At least I do. And I've shifted over the years, whereas I used to read a lot of fiction, some literature, some sci-fi. I loved sci-fi fantasy as a kid. I over time found myself more interested in going deeper into ideas, and it's just who I am. I don't think one is better than the other. You read some good literature, it can be transformative. It can change your life, and I respect that. However, I tend to read nonfiction, and a lot of my work is centered around private business, private industry, private business ownership, entrepreneurship, and the value of that, not just for the individual that's pursuing their business dream and starting a business, but for the people that are employed by the problems that are solved by the products and services these companies offer, and for the impact that these companies have on their communities, and the concepts of wealth creation and fulfillment, finding fulfillment in your work, both for the employees and the entrepreneur. And there's just so much to private business that I find fascinating. However, there's this problem, and I've identified this problem. I was aware of it for many years. And that is, and I'll get comments on this kind of stuff like, oh, you're just a capitalist. Oh, you're just a, classical liberal, whatever. I mean, yes and no. The problem for me is that free markets and private business ownership gets equated with capitalism. And the cat, Pippa's in here. You want to say hello? Hold on one second. Let's get the cat. Come here. This is Pippa. I've never had a cat before, but this is Pippa. She likes to spend her time outside at night and then come in and sleep during the day. She hears me talking, of course, wakes up. She's probably sitting on a bed somewhere, hears my voice and says, well, I should probably go beg him for food. So I'll have to let her out in a minute, I would imagine. But we tend to equate capitalism and free market, private business, money making in our free market. And I think that's flawed. It's a conflation that's not necessarily true. But because our economy, in the U.S. at least, has been oriented towards capitalism and free markets, and we talk about it in terms of capitalism, not we, just you and I, but just our society. Make sure I don't have any cat hair on me. We tend to, in our minds, just put the two together. And what ends up happening is you can't imagine one without the other. You just tend to think that, well, this is how it works. And this doesn't just happen to people on the side of free markets and private industry. This happens to people on the other side, the socialists, the Marxists. It's their big accusation. Oh, you're just a capitalist. I remember in the 70s and the 80s, a capitalist pig, imperialist capitalist pig. There's this idea that if you are pro-business, especially free markets, private business, somehow you're just this capitalist. Now, I'm not going to try to unpack all this because I'm not an expert economist. I'm not an expert political economist, etc. There's the cat. However, I do want to talk about a book I'm reading. Before I do that, I'm going to pause this video, let the cat out, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. All right, cat's out. So let's get the cat out of the bag here and talk about the book. There's a book I've been reading. I'm just past the halfway mark. I don't know if you can see that there. You can see I'm Zettelkasten. There's some of my notes and bibliography card, and I use it as a bookmark as I read. But the book I'm reading is Toward a Truly Free Market. Toward a Truly Free Market. The author is John Medaille. Medaille? Medaille, a professor, economist, so on. But essentially, what he is arguing for is distributivism. Am I saying that right? Distributivism. I don't know. But there's a concept of distributivist economics, an approach to free markets that is distributist in nature. And the idea being, and this is where it gets kind of weird, because when you're brought up in this kind of classic American economy of this classical liberalism where it's free markets and capitalism, you hear certain terms, they become like devil terms. So he talks about equity. Well, anybody paying attention to my content in the world around us, I'm not big into the equity discussion as it's talked about today. You hear things like a just wage, and you go, well, hang on a second. That sounds disturbingly like socialism and government control. But these are concepts that go back to the 1800s. Thinkers even before, but I think Pope Leo, I don't remember which one, 13, 10, 6, One of the Leos, I'll flash it up on the screen, had an encyclical, talked about a just wage. It informs distributivism. Man, I cannot for the life of me. I'm just talking about this for the first time, and I haven't finished the book. You can't hold a guy accountable to say the words properly if he hasn't finished the book yet. So when I finish the book, and maybe I'll talk about it more, I'm not going to get into all the details of the book, but when I'll talk about it more, maybe do a review when I finish it. But essentially, this idea of a just wage, meaning you have various things that go towards creating wealth. You've got capital, the means to production, if you will. You've got labor and so on. And the idea being that labor, you can't create wealth without labor. You can't create it without capital. These things need one another. You need the entrepreneur and so on. But you want to make sure that the profits that come out of that work are justly distributed. That's not to say that, and the solution, according to a distributivist, I'm putting a V in there, distributist perspective is not that the state comes in and says, okay, we'll make sure it's just. That's more of a Marxist concept. Central control, the state comes in, it's God, it replaces everything else. It'll tell you what your work is. It'll tell you what you're allowed to make. It'll take all the profits and distribute them, supposedly. We know that's not true. Justly across the society. But a distributist perspective is one in which they're trying to figure out ways in which you can distribute the wealth accordingly. And that's not to say that it's equal, that each contributor to the wealth creation gets an equal share. The entrepreneur is going to risk everything. They're going to work untold hours, their home, their family, everything's going to be on the block, so to say. Not that you're going to sell your family, but you're risking everything. I know this. When I ran a business, multiple businesses, but I had a business when we had young kids, there were times where the business was in trouble, specifically 2008, 2009 during the big crash, and we didn't get paid. My children, their father didn't get an income. Now, my employees, they got an income. To be fair to my employees, first of all, I had to lay a number of employees off. Secondly, to get through the worst, rockiest time, we had to cut hours. So even the employees that made it through the cuts were working, shorter hours, maybe 3-4 days a week, getting paid less than they typically did. That made it very hard for them as families to pay their bills. But as the entrepreneur, we often didn't take a paycheck. I had to make sure that I paid the employees, I'd paid the rent, all that kind of stuff, but we didn't often get a paycheck, and that cost us something. We fell behind in many ways. We were able to make that up down the road, but there's a cost, the stress to the family, et cetera. So you can say in a distributist kind of worldview that, yeah, the entrepreneur should make more. He or she should get more of the profits. But in the classic capitalist model, labor is squeezed as much as possible. And I'll get into it. I don't want to unpack this too much because I'm not fully there yet. And I don't know that I agree with everything, but I'm just talking about the argument. So reading this book, interesting stuff. Some of the thinking, G.K. Chesterton was one who helped formulate this. Another one is, what's his name? I'm going to go blank now. The writer of The Servile State, Hilaire Belloc. I read Belloc's Servile State many years ago. That book was written, I want to say I could say early 1900s, but I might be wrong. It might even be the 1800s. Belloc, great thinker, and Servile State kind of got my mind going on the cleft between free markets and capitalism, the one that could be there. There are different ways to think about this. Now, there are some other ways of approaching this. There's Southern agrarianism and different kind of populist approaches to economies. I'm not advocating one or the other, but I'm just busy trying to challenge and stretch my thinking. I'm convinced and have been convinced that there are other ways to think about free markets that are both free, respect private property, are conservative in their nature, meaning that these things respect kind of what a human being is in the context of the world we live in, and how do you bring things that there's a good order for flourishing and fulfillment as human beings, that traditions matter, that cultures and families and peoples matter. So busy reading this book, kind of interesting. I'll do a review when I get to the end of it. We'll go from there. Another thing I'll just throw out there, a lot of you are aware of the podcast I have, The Currency. If you look on the channel, you can find some episodes. I've dabbled in, I've been doing it for years on and off. There's 100 and some odd episodes, maybe 150, I can't remember. I've done interviews, I've done monologues, I've covered business and entrepreneurship, I've covered philosophy and the culture wars, I've covered politics and so on, society. I've been doing it kind of in a spotty fashion because I'm busy focused on launching the new privateer, and I believe that is really a work worthy of attention and focus. I've kind of put the podcast on hold. I'd love to do some interviews and so on, but I'm so distracted right now. And the very fact that I just struggle to get these videos out, I thought, you know what? Let me put that on hold for now. It's not canceled. It's not, there's no big announcement around that, but just letting you guys know if you like watching that, listening to that it's probably going to be a while before I go back to podcasting. I've got to focus because I've only got so much time where the best results are. YouTube, phenomenal. And you guys are great. Audience is great. I love making videos. And I think, if I, like today, just getting something out there, sharing what's going on, I just need some forward momentum with that. Consulting work is great. My email newsletter, fantastic. That's going really nicely. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, I'll put a link in the description. But essentially, I've got a weekly email, some tips, tricks, etc., entrepreneurship, strategy, branding, marketing, so on. Yes, you're going to get a little bit of promotion here and there on the new privateer, but I'm still trying to put quality content out there via the email. That's free. Sign up if you like that kind of thing. But that's about it for right now. We're in late October, just a couple days left to go. I think what's today, today's the 30th, October 30th as I record this. We got one more day. Tomorrow's Halloween. So I'll probably publish this either today or tomorrow. But we're wrapping up October. I'm in shorts and short sleeves here, as you can see, in the south, hoping to get out, do a little boating maybe on Friday, take in the sun as we can before the truly cold weather hits us here. All right, guys. Love you all. Thanks so much for joining me. Make sure to like and subscribe, sign up for the newsletter, and I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.